I'm so happy to finally present my first ever video podcast, Sharpe's Corner, where we will be interviewing coaches, some of the best in the business, and traveled down to the OC for our very first guest. I hope you enjoy it. All right, hi, Coach Sharpe here. Welcome to our first episode of Sharpe's Corner, and it is my great pleasure to introduce our very first guest, Martin Dugard.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, so I get to brag about you because that's part of how this works. So we're going to list some of the accolades that this gentleman has. 13 Trinity League titles, 5 CIF championships, 3 team state championships, 4 individual state champions or championships. And also, I might add that you have written for multiple publications about running, such as Outside, Sports Illustrated, and Runner's World, not to mention your best-selling book, To Be a Runner. I am honored to say that we have been friends for 12 years now. And as a coach of a divisional rival, I got to experience what an exceptional coach you are firsthand.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. My first question will be, did your journey to be a writer, which it seems was always intertwined a bit with endurance sports, influence your desire in any way to also coach at some point? Because you had this career in writing, and then what I always loved about you is you never had to coach. That was like you decided, like, I want to do this.
I love to coach. It kind of came through like that. I became a writer professionally. You know, I left the corporate world in my late 20s to begin writing full time. And because I covered mostly endurance sports at the start, so I covered a lot of marathons, a lot of triathlons, adventure racing. It kind of got in my head to, how people did certain things. But because I had competed at the high school and the collegiate level and, ran, marathons and did triathlons and adventure races as well into my early 30s, that was, the methodology of coaching was always something that I was trying to figure out. Mm-hmm. And then when my kids were young, I coached, AYSO soccer, and I coached Little League. And as much fun as I had with that, part of me began saying, I'm pretty good at this, but what I'd really love to do is coach running, just because it's something I knew. And so when my oldest son was a freshman in high school, he was a lacrosse player, and he wanted to transfer from the school he went to the public school he went to a new private school that was opening up because they had a new up-and-coming lacrosse program. And so, we were very much public school people. I never imagined my kid going to a private school. But as we were taking the campus tour...
Yeah, I'm inferring the name of this school, possibly?
J. Sarah Catholic High School, a brand new school. Yeah. And as we were taking the campus tour, I was introduced to the athletic director. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what, I've been a runner my whole life. If your cross-country coach needs any help, I'd love to be an assistant just to kind of get out there every day. And he told me, he said, well, we don't have a cross-country coach right now. Do you want the job? And,
just like that.
And that's exactly how I became a coach, just like that. I don't think it gets any easier.
No, I love that story. I mean, that's a great story. And the fact that, like, you were willing to help out anyway. Yeah. And then to just accidentally into that. Well, obviously you had a, very successful run in your time, at J. Sarah. So, one of the things I'd like to mention too is our sport, to me, is kind of a very unique sport. Technically speaking, we were rivals, right? So but in our sport, that wasn't a barrier to us actually being really good friends. And there were times when you'd be on the podium and you'd invite us over and say how much you appreciated having us there, which I love and appreciate about our sport. And we tried to do the same with you guys, because the reality is it was a motivator. You know what I mean? And I loved it.
I think we're all competitors. And so you respect everybody, but the people you respect most are the people who are a threat, right? Especially in competition. Yeah. So, I should say something too. When I first began coaching, I think a lot of people do this because, if you grow up as a runner, mm-hmm. and I had a number of, between high school and college, I had probably 6 different coaches. I kind of thought I knew inherently how to coach. And one of the great things that came to me was I literally knew nothing when I began coaching. And it was through those LA 84 clinics. It was talking to people like you. It was talking to people like Doug Souls and just kind of picking people's brains to see what worked for people. That's how I constructed my own methodology. Yeah. But
Those LA84 clinics.
They're the best.
I went to a bunch of those. Also, Runner's Workshop. I don't know if you remember when they used to go. They had a close association with that same group. So, like, you know, Tim would come up from Mount Sac with his crew and give these great presentations. And I learned so much about Los Angeles, California cross country and track and field because I grew up in Michigan. So that was important for me to begin my understanding of courses, the famous courses, Mount Sac, things like that. So I mirror exactly what you're saying. Those were great places to learn.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah.
All right, so I thought that I would always start a little bit, obviously after, you know, hanging out with some questions that I think, you know, there's a world out there that surrounds our sport, and it's coaches, athletes, and parents to me.
Yeah.
And so I thought we'd always start with some opening questions that maybe address some of those things. So the first question I like to ask is, what advice do you have for coaches, both new coaches and those wishing to take it to the next level?
Yeah, study. You know, and you know, beneath this desk there's a little bookshelf, and I have binders of other people's programs, you know, that I refer back to. I've got books. And there's not a day goes by when I'm planning a workout that I don't refer back to something that I've learned. I think a lot of people, you know, maybe they lean a little bit on Runner's World, or maybe they buy a copy of Joe Vigil's, you know, Road to the Top or something, and then that becomes their Bible. But I think if you really open yourself up to study, and if you really open yourself up to learning about the methodology of coaching, you kind of put your own stamp on it. But you can't do that unless you're open to really doing the research and doing the investigation. Jeremy Matern, who used to coach down here and who's now up in Northern California, I remember he said that he makes it a point to read at least 15 minutes every single day about running. Wow. 15 minutes every day, no matter what. I thought that is a great habit. And it's not going to eat up your whole day, but at the same time, you're going to learn something new at some point, no matter what.
No, that's great advice, obviously. What advice would you have for athletes, both new athletes and those who wish to take it to the next level?
Be consistent. I think, I don't want to speak for you, but I think that one of the most frustrating things for me as a coach is when you have someone who's talented and who doesn't show up every day. And then they get hurt, they're trying to do too much when they come back, or they just stay average. They don't fulfill their potential. Or it's the same thing as, you know, that kid who is kind of maybe year 8 or year 9 in cross country, but who, you know, says, Coach, I want to be top 5. I want to be scoring. But then they don't show up every day. They miss the long run. They miss, you know, they miss, let's say, just one practice a week. But that one day adds up, you know, over the course of a 22-week evolution, which is the typical training cycle for a full cross country season. That's 22 days you've missed. Yeah. That's 3 weeks of practice that you have not taken advantage of. So yeah, I would tell people, show up every day, do the work. And that's one of the most profound things, is when you have the people who do show up every day. And if they start off as, you know, average, and you don't even notice them at first because they're so kind of below your radar, and all of a sudden you realize that they're showing up every day, they're doing the work, and all of a sudden they have that race, that breakthrough race, that all of a sudden you know, they know it, you know it, and all of a sudden there's somebody who's on your radar and you pay attention to them.
Those are my favorite stories.
I love that, right?
I mean,
yeah.
They just are. I mean,
yeah.
We've got one of those this year that, like, and it seems like you find at least one every year, right? Yeah. I love those stories. And then, what advice do you have for parents? You know, being a parent, I think today is probably a little different than it was back when you and I were young and doing it. So what advice would you give to parents?
Leave me alone. You know, I do not know a single coach who is out to get a runner, who's out to make someone less. You know, our job every day is to make someone as good as they can be. So when you get that parent who, I don't mind being questioned, you know, but at the same time, I don't want someone to say, oh, you know, we like what you're doing here, but we're going to hire this assistant coach to, you know, this private coach to help, you know, on the side. Or, you know, people who, you know, all of a sudden they come up with all these ideas about workouts that we could be doing in addition to what we're already doing. You know, I've been a parent of, you know, I've got 3 boys. They've all done athletics in, you know, whether it be running or, you know, lacrosse or swimming. And I learned a long time ago that as a parent, I am my best advocate for my child by just letting the coach. And again, I've never, even at times where I've been upset with the way somebody else has coached my child. I just have remained quiet and realized that the person is not trying to sabotage my kid in any way, shape, or form, which is something none of us want to do. We all want to win. Yeah. And even if your kid is a mean-spirited little jerk, if we can mold them in a way that they're going to help the team, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great advice. All right, and if you're willing to offer, what were maybe some of your early mistakes as a coach, and what did you learn from them?
I think one of the biggest early mistakes I had was not having a plan. Mm-hmm. I knew the rough structure of the season. The old school, base phase. The pyramid. We have the wide base, and you're going for the high peak. Maybe tapering too much too soon. Little things like that, but really not having a written plan. And so every time when I start my season, I write a rough season plan, and then I alter it every day. But right. the biggest, and you have to, within that plan, you can't just try to make fast runners. You have to have objectives, and I like to dream big. I tell my kids flat out, I'm a Trinity League coach. It's like, here are our goals for this year: win Trinity League, win CIF, win state. And the first time I said that to my teams, they looked at me like I was a madman. But within 3 years, we won Trinity League, we won CIF, we won state, and we did it 3 years in a row. Yeah. And then if you tell a kid as a freshman, like Anthony Grover a couple of years ago and Andrew Burkhart before him, I told them when they were very young, like, you have the potential, I'm going to make you a state champion. And they look at you like, you're a crazy man. But if you can get that through their heads that we're going to do the impossible, but you have to do all the hard work, I'm going to guide you through it, and then they see a little bit of success and they kind of start buying into it, that's when you get that thing. But the biggest mistakes I've made have been, I'm a very laid back guy, and I'm not organizationally one of those people you look at and say, oh, he's a great administrator. Mm-hmm. I'm not. But I've realized that when it comes to coaching, I need to be very anal and meticulous and organized, and every workout has a purpose, everything gets logged, everything gets measured. And before I began doing that, I didn't realize that the process of me holding myself accountable for how the season is structured and the workouts are structured, the kids can pick up on it. So if I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants, they think that nobody's really in charge, and then they don't feel like anyone's guiding the program. And the more I got organized, the more that I planned my seasons, the more that I set big goals, the more success we had. It just became, and it got to the point where, I'm not a Doug Souls, and Doug's just amazing with what he's done, but I love that feeling you get when you get to a big meet, whether it's in cross country or track, and you see your kids walking to the line, and every other team is looking over at them like, right, oh shit, they're here. Yep. I love that. It's the most awesome feeling in the world. Yeah. I love that.
No, it's funny you were talking about, dreaming big and the crazy. So it made me think, are you aware of our sort of, in our program, our little inside joke with, the reporter Eric Bowl?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He calls it Crazy Town.
Oh, really?
Right, that, like, he was just like, I don't even remember the genesis of it. Probably have to ask Eric at some time, but that's really become ingrained because we kept talking about all the crazy things we were going to do. And I'm pretty sure it was Eric who said it first, but he's like, are you guys going to Crazy Town this year? And I just love the way that sounds, because it's kind of a fun way to say this is the goal, but it sounds like you have the same thing. Like, this is where Crazy Town is located, and this is where we're going this year.
Do something impossible.
Yeah.
By the way, Eric is, between him and Rich Gonzalez, the level of minutia they know about our sport just is mind-blowing. I mean, I can barely remember the names of my own kids, or those guys know the names of, like, the number 5 runner on, almost every team in Southern California. But I like, that Crazy Town idea. I like the idea that you set new goals and new dreams. Like when Anthony went to Nike Cross Nationals last year, was the first time that as a coach I had taken an athlete there. Yeah. But I came away from that race saying, I'm going to take a team here. And that's my goal now that I'm at Santa Margarita, is to get that program into the national level. Because we've got the horses right now, and again, it's the same thing. I've got a really great group of freshman boys, And I sat him down a couple weeks ago with my other coach, my fellow coach, Mike Powers. We sat the team down and said, look, we're going to win state, and we're going to win it before you know it. So wrap your head around that, because we're going to do what we have to do. And again, they gave us that look like we have no idea what that means. And it's like, and when we win it, though, I told them when we sat down in the boardroom at the school in the big conference room in the athletic department, and I said, you're going to look back on this day at some point, and you're going to say, oh, that was the day that changed the course of my athletic life, because that's the day we went from just being participants to being people that are chasing a goal, that are chasing a dream, and are working very specifically towards being a champion. And that means I love that moment.
All right, for our next section, when I first dreamed up, a show where I got to do my favorite thing, hang out and talk to coaches, these were actually the original 10 questions. I've expanded a little since then, but I thought I could always end every episode with asking these 10 questions, which are, I think very applicable for coaches, and, just kind of answer whatever comes to you first.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I really want this to be honest and fun, so just kind of have at it. First question, what motivates you as a coach? Obviously, we've talked a little, so there be some overlap, but when I say that to you, you can refer back, but maybe there's even something new that comes to you.
Well, you said the first thing that pops in my mind, and that's winning.
Yeah.
So I will say I love developing runners. I love the trajectory of the season, that evolution. I love watching people have breakthroughs, but there's nothing like standing on top of the podium. And I remember one time I overheard a football coach talking about my program, and he was saying, cross country doesn't know its place. And I just happened to walk in as he said that, and I was being a little glib. I go, yeah, our place is on top of the podium. And once you recognize that is your go-to, the team will follow you. And that, to me, it's a huge motivator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. What concerns you as a coach? I think what I mean by that in some sense is like today. Like I said, we're coaching in a different time.
Yeah.
So what concerns you as a coach these days?
Oh, there's all those little things you think about. Are we doing too much mileage? Are we not doing enough mileage? Do we need more mornings? Are we not doing enough Sharpe speed? Are we doing too much Sharpe speed? It's the details of coaching that concern me most. I've got to say that this is my 16th year as a coach, and the kids are pretty much the same. Times have changed. We have societally some of the bad jokes I might have told 15 years ago. I wouldn't even dream of telling these days. But as long as we can get out there and bend these people to our will. No, take a young freshman who is unsure of themselves and convince them through hard work and discipline and daily consistency that they are great and that they can be even greater. And and I'm not going to say today I want you to run fast. I'm going to tell you today I want you to run faster. That's the stuff that really gets me going.
Yeah. Number 3, what is your favorite drill, practice rep, or workout?
Ooh, I love the Michigan. Michigan's my favorite. And I will.
Do you want to maybe describe that? 'Cause
sure.
we can't be sure everyone knows.
Yeah. So it takes many forms, but idea if you do it on the track, it's a mile at 10K pace. Then you leave and you tempo for a K or for a mile, and you come right back on the track. Just a few seconds walk rest, then you get right back into it. Then it's a 1200 at closer to 8K to 4K pace. Then you go tempo again. Then you come back and then you do an 800, and that's more like 5K pace. And then you go to it again, and then you come back into a 400 all out.
Yeah.
Now we do a variation of that at Santa Margarita where we do it off the track, and we do it on a big grassy loop where you do basically 3 laps, 2 laps, 1 lap, then a half lap. But each lap is 0.4, so you're actually doing 1.2, then 0.8, then 0.4, and then when you do the half lap, it's just 0.2. So you're doing a little bit more, which is better for cross country, I think.
Right.
I'm a big believer that strength plus speed equals success. And so that workout I like, but I love love hills. I think whenever you get too far away from hills, you don't just get stronger. You don't just improve your form on hills, but there's a mental toughness that comes when people run hills well and run downhill well. And so we see it a lot at Mount Sac. You get kids who know how to run the switchbacks, who know how to run poop out, they know how to run reservoir, not because they run the Mount Sac course every day in practice. It's because their bodies are so in tune with, leaning into a hill, getting your chin up, getting your hips forward, using your arms, all those little things that come into doing it well. It just gives it a mental toughness.
Yeah. And then, what is your least favorite drill, practice, rep, or workout? It's because I know, what I mean by this is sometimes there are things we do that maybe we don't love, but we know they're important. Or it could also just be something like, oh, we used to do this, but we don't anymore because of this.
You bring up a good point, and that's one of the reasons I log every workout, because sometimes you don't realize you're doing it, but the least favorite thing, you tend to kind of drop it.
Yeah.
And you need to kind of keep those things in, and I'll look back and go, man, we haven't done core in 3 weeks. What is wrong with me? Or I don't like wickets. I know we need to do them, and here's why I don't like them. It's not that they're bad, because I know that every time we do them, the kids get better. It's a hassle to take all those wickets and even the speed ladders and set them up, and march off however many feet you want between the ladders and the hurdles, and then you got to pick them up at the end. I mean, how much time does that take? It takes 5 minutes out of my life. But it's a task instead of just the fun part of coaching, which is you stand around and you BS with your athletes before the practice, and you talk to your coaches during the practice, and everyone's having fun, everyone's caught up in the moment. Actually having to do a task seems like it takes away from it. So that's the thing is, I'm a big believer in that our feet move fast every day. So whether we're doing just simple strides, or we're doing hit 150s, or we're doing Sharpe 200s with a 200 jog just to kind of get things moving, they have to be done every day. But let's say practice goes long. So the kids come back from a run. I'm looking at it. It's like they got to get home. They got to do their homework. They got to eat. They got to hydrate. All that checklist of things they have to do after practice. And my long workout has kind of started cutting into that. Well, it's a temptation to say, we're not going to do strides today, or we're not going to do hit 150s. We're not going to do 30, 60, 90s. All those little things that you do to make it better. And I have to remind myself, it's like, why am I in such a hurry? We can take 5 extra minutes and do those little things that will make a difference at some point. And just because I have mismanaged the time, yes, I'm going to cut into their evening just a little bit more, but we still have to do that job, even though part of me wants to say, let's just go home, you know?
I've been in similar situations myself. What is your favorite thing to see at a competition?
It depends upon the competition. Like at Woodbridge, I don't like Woodbridge. I like Woodbridge, but it's like, and I love George Varvis, but I don't like a flat course. Let's put it that way. I think cross country should be cross country. But at Woodbridge, I love that electricity of the people running under the lights, and that little bit of film of dust that rises when you have all these people running at the same time, and just the thunder and the charge of these kids just come off the line, and making that push for home, and the big crowds. At Mount Sac, I get there early for Mount Sac every year, just because I like to be at Mount Sac. To me, it is still the cathedral of cross country. I ran Mount Sac in 1978 when my family moved to California.
Still 2 miles?
It was we just gone up to 3.
Okay.
And so I've got my finisher medal over there somewhere. It was third that day. It was third. But I just like that. I like that electricity. The first race of the year is usually Laguna Hills, and I like to be the first person there, which means I'm the first customer at Starbucks at 5 a.m. I go straight to the course to set up the canopy, and I watch the sunrise, and I watch the other teams arrive. I watch the canopies get set in place. I watch all of a sudden the total quiet of the morning become just this buzz of electricity, and then. Again, remember, it's the first race of the year. That first sound of the starting gun going off, it just charges me, because it's just the start of the season, the start of this odyssey, and that whole process of just being in a race, watching everybody do what they do at the race, and then as a coach, like I try to be self-contained. I try to be this very laid-back guy. And then all of a sudden I find myself, at the top of a hill, just screaming, I'm sure if I ever saw a video of myself, what I look like is I yell for and at a runner, I would be appalled. But I can't help myself. I just get so caught up in the moment. And I've got to say, the minute I stop feeling that excitement about race day and that excitement about cheering for a kid, and when one of your kids does something great, I remember Peter Harold when he won the Mount Sac relays in the 1600 a few years ago. Watching him, he was the last guy accepted he was just a last minute addition. He wasn't even lined up on the track. There were so many people on the waterfall that he was literally 1 foot off the track.
Yeah.
Then he came, and him and Anthony Griffin went 1-2 that day. Peter won. He had not been successful that much throughout his career. He'd always been number 2 to one runner or the other. And to watch him win that race, and then immediately afterwards get a college scholarship from UCLA. I mean, what a day.
Yeah.
When I stopped getting excited about stuff like that is the day I quit. Yeah.
I hear you, man. I feel the same way. What is your least favorite thing to see at a competition?
There's not much I don't like about race day. I got to say that. Here's the thing. Here's what I hate to hear. I hate to hear that second gun that means the runners are getting called back because somebody fell. Yeah. Because I always dread that it's one of my guys. And at the state meet one year, it was one of my guys, and people don't recover from that. You can physically get up and walk back to the line and get ready to race, but if you have sprinted 50 yards, someone has knocked you down, and people have stepped all over you, you're not the same runner.
No.
And
it's a little bit of shock.
And I just when you see it, it's like, oh, we're here to win. Now it's going to take another level of effort, and we need to make sure maybe the 6 or the 7 is going to step up. And one other thing I hate, probably even more than that, that thing that I'm sure every coach hates. You're standing, let's say, at the 2-mile mark at Mount Sac, and your runners coming past, and you're counting your runners. There's my 1, there's my 2, there's my 3, and you're counting the other team's runner. There's my 4. Now, on a good day, your 5 is right there, right with your 4. On a bad day, you're waiting for that 5, and 10 seconds go by, and 30 runners come through, and 20 seconds, 30 seconds, maybe a minute. That wait for the 5 is horrible. And when you finally see your 5, if there's enough gap, you're cooked. You're not going to win. So it's bumming me out just thinking about that.
I know. It's I want to refrain from talking too much about our program. You're my guest, but I got
to tell you something. So here's a moment. So I was standing at top of Reservoir 2009 CIF championships, and I'm counting, and we're ahead. We're winning. You are in second place.
Yeah.
And that was I think you had Cammie and Amy that year.
We did.
You were the bomb. And I'm looking from the top of Reservoir. I'm feeling so good about the fact and I watch my 5 enter the gauntlet, and all she has to do is maintain her position, and she doesn't kick, and she gets passed by 2 people. And I know in that minute that we just lost. So I knew it was that close.
Yeah.
And you were very close to me, and you knew that you had won. We didn't know each other at the time.
Yeah.
And you were celebrating. I thought, it was horrible. And then you remember at some point, it's like, okay, I feel terrible, but at some point, they're still just kids.
Yeah.
Even though they've done something that she didn't even know she'd done it. She didn't. She doesn't even know. I'm not going to say her name. She's never going to know that she cost us that. But you just got to roll with it. You win, you lose.
In contrast to that moment, one where I really wasn't sure was 2015 with the boys.
I remember that. I was standing next to you.
You were standing next to me, and you were the one who told me. You were like, "Coach, I think you just won." I was like, "Oh." Like in that moment, I was so unsure. I didn't want to give myself false hope for a little bit. So you and I have had a few moments like that. You know what I mean? Where at different times, whether it's Eric Bowl running over to give us the insight on something that was close.
I like back in the day when you didn't have. I love finished results. I love the automatic stuff. But back when you had to wait
for the piece of paper to get stapled up,
and I would kind of go over, and always George Varvas was the one who was somehow in the middle of all the things.
Yeah.
And he'd look at you if you did well, and he'd
Yeah. You do the one and
you
the
got
nod.
you got the one. It's like, yeah, we did it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you're one of the other teams who didn't win that year, like you notice them when that happens because suddenly they're doing the thing. And you're like, oh. That's how you know.
Yep.
Oh, what a great answer. That's why I love this. So, what would you say your catchphrase is as a coach? And what I mean, there might be several.
Yeah.
And this is like, if you're just real honest, even if you're not sure, what do you think kids would say your catchphrase is?
I sign every email, keep pushing always, because that's kind of my thing. But the stuff that they pick up on are the things that I yell in practice. Like if they're supposed to jog the interval and they're walking, it's like, jog, please, and it's any of a number of, it's usually the stuff that you say in practice that they kind of, they're saying behind your back. It's stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I used to swear more than I do now. So my catchphrase back in like 2006, it might have been more like an F-bomb, but you can't do that anymore.
No. I love that. I find too the kids keep me honest. I now ask every so often if you guys had to guess what's my catchphrase.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it keeps me honest too, because that's what they're hearing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I use that as a way to modify my behavior too, in case it's not what I want them to be the takeaway.
Exactly, yeah. What are they going to remember about practice?
Right. What is your best memory as a coach?
Ooh, I've had a lot of great ones. I mean, I think first and foremost, I'll tell you this one because it's gonna make me cry. It's my best. So the championships, being at nationals, standing on top of the podium at Woodward, watching my runner step on the podium. My favorite moment, and I'm very Irish, so I might just lose it here.
Yeah.
But 2011, 2012, no, 2010. I take that back. 2007. My son, who had been a lacrosse player, who came over, decided he was going to run cross country that year. So, and he just wanted to get in shape he didn't want to play football, just wanted to get in shape for lacrosse. He turned out to be my captain. He turned out to be one of my top runners, very natural runner. So we were at Mount Sac, and the boys team, we weren't in sweeps, but we were just in the regular age group, grade race. And the boys were very upset because they had done Trinity League a couple weeks earlier. And I think we had, of the 35 people in the race that day, we had, my top 7 were probably like 28th to 35th. And we got, pity applause at the end. Good job. Yeah, nice. And so they were very, very upset. And I knew they were better than that. They just run poorly that day. But anyway, so I was at Mount Sac, and my boys ran, and I, when the race is so close together, you can't get back to the tent and still be there for your girls. So what I did was, I watched the boys from the top of Reservoir, then I went back down. I watched, what I do, anyway, top of Reservoir, stayed at the top of Reservoir. I didn't have time to go down for the girls' race, so I just stayed up there. And I watched the boys finish from up top, as you can. So my cell phone rang during the girls' race as the girls were coming up Reservoir. And I looked at it, and I thought it was my youngest, who at the time was, like 9. And he liked to just call me and say, I'm bored. Can we go home? Stuff like that. And I looked at it, and I ignored it, and I just cheered for the girls. And so I called back after the race was over. And it turns out it was my oldest son who was calling me. And he said, Dad, we won.
Wow.
Yeah, that was so long ago. I'm still crying about it. But it was that moment where these kids who didn't believe in themselves did something they didn't think they could do.
Yeah.
And to hear the joy in his voice was fascinating. It was just wonderful. The best moment ever.
That is awesome. So, I love those moments. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean,
I
can feel it. I'm getting hit with some shrapnel over here, Coach.
Yeah. You should see me at my banquet sometimes. The people wait for me to cry at the banquet.
I think you and I may share that. We'll write it off to the Irish thing, right?
Yeah.
My ninth question is, What is the thing you would most like to learn more about next?
It's going to, unless you're a coach, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Two things. They're the same thing. Lactate threshold and aerobic threshold.
Yeah.
I don't, people talk a lot about critical velocity and stuff like that, which I still am trying to wrap my head around, but I believe that a distance runner gets better when they can operate best at the two thresholds, lactate threshold, aerobic threshold. And I don't have them really figured out yet. I mean, I can approximate what I want from those, and I know what it looks like when I get it.
Yeah.
But to be able to say very specifically, this is the pace I want you to hit, this is the workout we're going to do to affect the change I want to see changed.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. And that's and that's the great thing about coaching is there's always something new you can learn. I mean, you look at Jack Daniel's running formula, a lot of stuff, it's very simple wisdom. And I went through a phase where it's like, all I wanted to do was read Daniels. And then I thought I was too good for Daniels for a few years because I was doing V Hill and I was doing, who else? Cantona. And then I kind of went back to Daniels just to kind of just as a refresher. I think I was actually just looking for a VDOT chart.
Yeah.
I was reading some of the stuff. It's like, this is the same stuff. It's just packaged a different way. And it's really smart stuff. And I know that that's what they're doing at NAU right now because, Mike Smith worked with Daniels. So, that's, it's just that knowledge. It's just wrapping your head around the physiology. I mean, I'm a writer by trade. I have no background in science or biology or physiology. So for me to learn these things and to really understand them, I think is crucial to my team's success, but it also makes me a more well-rounded person just to understand why we do what we do. Because no part of any workout ever should not have a purpose. If we're just out there, logging junk miles just to, put some miles on our legs, or if we're just out there to do a workout because somebody said, oh, this is the workout you need to do. If I don't understand why we're doing that workout, I'm doing the kids a disservice, and I'm kind of, you're kind of making a joke out of yourself.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. All right, and the last of my 10 questions. How would you like to be remembered?
Tell you the truth, as a nice guy. I want my kids the kids that run for me, or, we as coaches spend more time with our athletes than teachers. Teachers hate to hear this, but we spend more time with our athletes than teachers spend with these people.
Yeah.
I think we make more of an imprint on them than almost anybody else they will encounter at the high school level. So if I come out there, if I am petty and vindictive, and if I'm small, it says horrible things about me, but I'm going to imprint that on my kids, But if I'm magnanimous, if we lose, if I take it well, or it becomes a teachable moment, then I think that's a really good thing. I want to be. We all had that coach or that teacher where we go, oh, he's such a dick, And I'm sure a lot of people say that about me, but the kids who I coached my first year in 2005, well, they're in their mid-30s now, and I hope that some of the stuff that we did in practice carries over to their life, because I'm a firm believer that running in particular and the process we go through as coaches and athletes to build towards a goal teaches the kind of life lessons of, perseverance, integrity, and believe me, there's no greater integrity than a sport where the only thing that matters is the stopwatch and your own personal level of effort. All those things transfer over into your job, into your stick-to-itiveness with a task, with a marriage, with any relationship.
Sure.
And if I can teach those lessons just by the fact that I am a nice guy and I have a positive mental attitude and I pass it along to people. I remember there was a guy that was one of my coaches in college. His name was Tom Messina, and I think he's up in Santa Clarita right now. But like I said, I had my dad. We moved a lot my dad was an Air Force pilot, so we moved a lot when I was in high school. So I had 4 different high school coaches, and I had 2 different college coaches, maybe 3. But the one who really stuck with me is Tom Messina. And he had this kind of sly, sarcastic attitude. But he was, and at first you thought he was just not, like he didn't care. But then you realize he cared immensely.
Right.
And that, I didn't realize, but that's how, when I became a coach, that's what I patterned my coaching on. But over the years, I've done that, but I've gotten less sarcastic and more just upbeat,
right.
And I find that if I'm upbeat at practice, I'm upbeat in the rest of my life. It just carries over. So
there's like a mirroring effect almost.
Yeah. So if you want to be remembered as a nice guy, it also means you're being good to yourself, and you're having a good time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I want to say thank you to our guest, Martin Dugard. I'm going to ask that he sticks around for a little extra. There will be a podcast to this, people. So the podcast will contain a lot more content than we can fit in the video version. But what an honor it is to have spent this time with you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you
Tim.
so much.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Hi. So thank you for watching. We had a blast making that content for you guys today. And if you like what you saw, you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe so that you can get notified when we got more shows like this coming. All right, everyone, be well and take care.